I don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
Episode 13 of Bitch vs. Bear by Shield Maiden Trading Co., which is me, Sydney, I'm awesome, Amber, who is dope. That's going to be the word for this episode, is dope. Anytime you can slide that into conversation. Bonus points if you can count how many times you say it.
We'll send you something.
We'll send you something.
I'll throw in a formation sticker.
Yes. All right. So we have another guest with us, the owner of Formation Performance. I don't know if you can see our shirts, but we're matching. Formation Performance and Physical Therapy.
Flip that.
Okay. What?
Formation physical therapy and performance.
Oops, my bad.
That was Amber.
Sorry.
You're good.
I knew I had it right. I knew I had it written right because I took it right from your website.
You didn't have it written at all.
So what I had written is...
Just read your shirt.
I can't.
I did last time.
What I had written, which I took directly from your website, which we were just talking about, is Formation is a welcoming space for LGBTQIA plus community that bridges the gap between rehab performance and is located in Richmond, VA. See, directly from your website.
Yes, it is.
So that's who our guest is today.
Her name is Allison. Did you say that?
I don't know.
Dr. Allison.
Dr.
Hey.
Allison. Dr. Allison Beal, if you want to be
Thanks for
professional.
inviting me to be a guest.
Yay!
I feel so special.
It's because we're dope.
It is. Double dope.
That only counts as one. All right. We're so psyched to have Allison here.
Clearly.
You are only our second guest, so thank you for being a continued guinea pig.
Always.
If you were watching us on our first Instagram live last month, you might recognize Allison because she joined us for our gingerbread house extravaganza.
Yes.
So go check that video out because that's a
So-
2.5.
It is dope.
Okay, so tell us about yourself, your business, what makes you. It says amazing here, but I'm gonna call you dope.
Well, so I always grew up with sports. Like, I was always active, and I always loved to help people too. I got my doctorate in physical therapy from University of Washington. Go Dogs. Okay. You don't see, I just made a W to the camera. But before I got my doctorate in physical therapy, I was a school psychologist for almost a decade. So I use what I learned as a psych, and that helps me provide better care for the clients that I work with. So I give a damn about who I work with, and I try and provide
Love that.
really high quality care. I moved to Richmond from Seattle with my wife, so her family's here. So we didn't want to be the aunties that only got to know them via FaceTime. Which then we moved here right around when the pandemic started, so we were the aunties who knew our nieces and nephews via FaceTime.
Well, yes, there's that.
But now we get to see them in person, and we get to do lots more stuff and watch them grow up. So that's awesome. And yeah, I'm best at working with athletic adults who want to have lasting results and value a high quality relationship with their physical therapist. So not just having someone who is just trying to get you in and out as quickly as you can. So I part of also having the high quality relationship is that I will do any single sport that people who work with me come to participate in.
It's true.
Which I believe, let's see, have I done any with you all?
You came to Bring a Friend Week and did CrossFit with me.
I did come to Bring a Friend Week.
Yeah.
You were one of our first people to come to a Shield Maiden class.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you've literally done our class with us.
That is correct. I've also done things like bar class and strength training classes, yoga, cycle, rock climbing, pole dancing.
That was the one I was hoping you were going to say.
What
I was
is
like, I remember that. Not that I do it, but that would be a
No.
blooper in and of itself.
Literally, like
one of our live events?
Yeah.
I've had multiple pole dancers who I've worked with who have come to me with either like shoulder pain or elbow pain, and I'm like, okay, how are you using your body, and like what do you
What's
need
the mechanism
to do it?
for like?
And so like I spun around the pole way too fast and gave myself a migraine. But
But
like,
now you know.
also I could hold myself upside down on it and like do handstand kind of things, and like, oh, okay, these are I went and sat in on a trick class, Butter and Filth in Richmond.
Nice.
So it's a great place. But
Want to
yeah.
sponsor us, Butter and Phil? We're trying for anybody. We're like Tuft and Needle or this pole dancing. Doesn't matter.
Bring it on. We're very accepting and inclusive.
Well, they're awesome. So yeah, just a taste of what I will put myself through. So what, like, I can provide a better service and make things individualized for the people who I work with. So, like, growing up, did ultimate frisbee, track and field with like sprints and pole vault. I was on my college softball and helped start the dance team, flag football, and I used to be a CrossFit level 2 coach. So
Cool. Anything else before we jump into questions that you want to tell listeners, new friends, old friends?
yeah. Well, you asked about my business and also what makes me amazing, which I had to ask my wife about.
I love that.
Also, about my business first, like formation, PT, and performance, like get athletes moving better and feeling better by like creating a plan specifically for you. Like you said, bridging the gap between rehab and performance. So everything is individualized. So I stand by what you call it, tips to get the best results. So T being thorough, like I'm ridiculously thorough. I'm most likely the most thorough PT that you will find in the Richmond area. Inclusive, like I said,
Yes.
LGBTQIA plus friendly, fat friendly. Like I'm not going to judge who comes in based upon like, what you look like or who you are. So personal. So like I said, I want to get to know you and individualize things for you, make plans for you, and then do strength training too, because like you might find that a lot of traditional PT clinics have like the heaviest is 10-pound dumbbells. I'm located in Body Art Gym, which is RVA's first like queer-owned gym. So I have access to all the equipment, and the wonderful community is there. I had begged the prior place that I worked at to get a squat rack, and there was never one before I left. There are 7 squat racks, might maybe 8 now at Body Art. So we get to move some weight because like my philosophy is like if you're like limiting yourself to with rehab only like 10 pounds of weight, but then what are you doing in your everyday life? Like where is that disconnect?
Yeah.
So yeah. And what makes me amazing?
Dope.
My wife said that when I set my mind to something, I'm extremely passionate about it, which might be how this whole formation, PT, and performance started in the first place, which also goes into an inquisitive mind that I have, and I go above and beyond in sports, relationships, PT, because I give a shit.
We can attest to that.
Yeah.
I assume you're okay sharing. I'm okay sharing. We've both been to see Allison in a professional capacity.
She can neither confirm nor deny. She's like a
very professional.
secret spy. But we can tell people that we've been to see. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking
Here
about
she is now on our podcast.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about that today because it's been about a year since I went to see you for some hip things that I was having that flared up after I tested my 1 rep max front squat, which I just retested
Mm-hmm.
a year later, and I hit pretty much the exact same thing. So I was like, I haven't decreased. I also haven't been training super hard since like September. So I was like really happy with my PR being pretty much the same. And I was like, last year when I did this, I hurt myself. I had to go to PT. This year
I'm
I
hoping
did.
you didn't hurt yourself
This year I felt great and was like, okay. And then went and did a workout right afterwards. And then I did clean and jerks today. So I was like, oh, PT. It works. Go see
Hey.
Allison.
Lasting effects.
Yeah, look at that. I keep doing the exercises she told me to do, and seem to be doing pretty good. So, there we are. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Dope.
Yes. All right. So one of my questions that I thought about in prepping for this lovely episode was, we're talking about fitness and injuries and recovery because obviously that's where you specialize. Are there times of year or seasons that you start to see like an increase in patients? I'm always so curious because it's like, is it just constant or is it like, oh yeah, we can always predict, or in, post-marathon season, there's going to be all these runners in here who've done themselves up because they overtrained and didn't recover well.
Well, I was just talking with my brother-in-law about this today too. So, Decembers are more likely not as many people who usually come in because, like, holidays, like, people are out of town. Yeah, it's slower months and things ebb and flow. And sometimes you're like, wow, this was a much busier month than I thought. And sometimes you're like, oh, all right.
Where'd all the peeps go?
I need to go out in the community and
I gotta
do more stuff.
I gotta do some more pole dancing classes.
But like, especially so far, like now being in business at a like brick and mortar kind of location for a year, like January, like this month is the most that I've had for like new inquiries of people. And I'm like, is it because like now I'm kind of established, so people know me, but like new resolutions, wanting to take control of your health, or also because I'm an out-of-network provider, like oftentimes deductibles reset at the beginning of the year. So you're paying out of pocket for in-network or out-of-network, like everything just goes towards your deductible. So like, why not care? Why not pay for like what I think higher quality care?
Yeah.
Because then what you would if you were doing in-network.
Yeah. Oh, that's curious. I didn't think about that aspect of it. Which, side note, I've been listening to the Nordic theory of everything, and the chapter I was just on was healthcare in America opposed to Swedish countries.
Yeah.
And fascinating. Highly recommend. Cool. Okay, so January, you're seeing a little bit of an influx.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of made that guess. That's why.
Yeah.
It's the
Good
end of the
question.
month.
That was dope of you.
Yeah, thank you.
We bet Allison has some things to share at the end of January.
We're good like that. We're good hosts, good podcasters. We do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you won't have a drink with us.
Hey,
Water is important.
It is
I'm
important.
hydrating.
I've been hydrating all day in my
What did I tell you
fucking
at
conferences. Ugh,
What did I tell you at the hip workshop? One of the things to help with healing.
you told me a lot of things.
I did tell you a lot of things, but one was hydrating.
It's true.
My water.
Yes,
Your new
with your
stickers.
beautiful new sticker. I do love your new sticker.
Thank you.
I'm a little jealous. I want new stickers for us.
I'm working on it. Okay. Ask her
All
the
right.
next one.
Okay, all right. I'll move on to my question. All right. So my question that Sid wrote is, so what are some of the biggest myths that you're trying to bust with your patients?
All right. Well, number one, like, don't just rest if something hurts. So find ways to modify things. And if you're working with me, I will help you figure out ways to modify things so that it works for you. And so, like, kind of going off what I said before, just because you have insurance doesn't mean that you're limited to in-network. And just because your physician refers you to a specific place doesn't mean you have to go to that specific place. Like, you have your own choice in who you go to for your healthcare. So, like, and if you start somewhere too and you don't really like it, because like I said, you have relationships with your healthcare providers. If you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And everyone can lift. I want to be the last one.
I love that. I love that.
I've had people like who have come like worked their way from back injuries be able to like deadlift twice their body like weight, like back squat 1.5 pounds or 1.5 pounds time 1.5 times their body weight. Like you can get to the point where you can lift, and I think that's great for rehab.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody, I mean, like we talk a lot about balancing strength training with other things, and lifting, and it doesn't have to be a barbell, right? Like there's dumbbells, there's kettlebells, there's so many odd objects because like that mimics real life. Like I always use the bag of mulch as an example because like so many people, and then you hear, right, like I'm sure you've had patients come along who are like, how did you do this? Well, I was lifting a bag of mulch, I was doing yard work and like twisted wrong, lifted wrong, and it's like, okay, well, we don't live in a bubble of not lifting heavy things. Like we have to move furniture, we have to move dirt from place to place, like it happens.
You have to lift your child.
Well, and like also healing and rehab is not linear too. So like sometimes you might lift something or twist some way and it's fine, and other times you're like, oh, that doesn't feel so awesome. But like it's nothing is just a line as you're getting better too. Like you'll have some days that are better and then some days that come down a little bit. But just because it comes down a little bit doesn't mean that you're not healing too. Like maybe you're just did a little bit more than what your body can handle at that moment. But it doesn't also mean that like you're gonna set yourself way back to where you were when you started.
Wow, that fit really well into my next question that I was going to ask you. What are some like common recovery self-sabotagers? So things that people do that may actually be sabotaging their rest and recovery process.
Number one, not recovering in the first place. So like not warming up or not cooling down. So
is this something you're guilty of?
I have gotten, over the last year, I've done much better about cooling down. But we need to talk after this episode about something I did about a month ago. We'll skip over that for this. Cool.
Yeah. So bullet point number one is sit.
Or like said, kind of what I said before, like doing too much too soon. Mm-hmm. Be it like feeling really good and then trying to like increase like huge jump in weights that you're lifting, or like increase like go from running half a mile to doing like a 5K or 10K like in one time. So you have to do gradual increases in activity, and that'll help like decrease risk of injury and self-sabotage.
I love that you use 10K as an example. I have run one 10K in my entire life.
That's right. I stopped at the 5K because I couldn't walk with that one.
So when we were living in Maine, we were running probably 2 to 3 times a week. I was. You actually run more than you think you do. In Maine, you were running a ton.
I was running a little more.
Yeah. It was the only thing to do. Right? Like
this was during the pandemic.
Yeah. So we were running a lot. And I one summer was like, oh, I want to be able to run a 10K by the end of the summer. I had done a couple 5Ks and was like, whatever. And then September rolled around and I was like, oh crap, I haven't done that 10K. So I made Shelby run it with me, Amber run it, and our two friends who actually just finished a marathon in Disney World.
Yeah.
They're
Very cool.
big.
Wow.
Yeah. They did it. So we were going to run, and I got everybody together, and our friends were like, okay, here's the route we normally do for our 10K. And I was like, great, let's do it.
Because they're like usual runners.
Yeah,
they
they're
run
like
a lot.
Yeah.
They trained.
Yeah, they
They
trained
train
quite a bit. And Shelby and I and Amber had all been running, and we ran our 5K, and Amber was like, I'm bowing out. I have nothing to prove.
I could no longer walk.
You listen to your body.
My body was screeching. My hip hurt so bad I couldn't walk for a week.
And we did finish the 10K, and I was like, okay, good, cool, check that off the mark, like off my bucket list, done, and have had no desire to do it since.
I mean, why would you? It was
Yeah.
awful.
No, it wasn't that bad. Like I didn't.
So
sleep
it
for
wasn't
me.
dope.
It was not dope in the least.
It was
It's
just
just the least dopest thing I've done.
Does that count?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
yeah, the least dopest. Yeah, so that was the one and only 10K I've ever run. So yeah, that's the story about that. I will not do it again. 5K is the top of that range.
I'm proud of you that you did it.
Thank you. Me too. Cool. So any other common recovery self-sabotages that you see or you want to like point out to people so that they can kind of be aware of them?
The one thing I can really think of is like, I know like a lot of time people want to do like foam rolling, for like maybe cool down or any kind of stuff. So foam rolling has a very short amount of time that it is beneficial for. So combine stuff with it too. So like foam rolling is good for about like 15 minutes, but not much longer than that.
Like post workout, or just
or
doing
just
it
like
for
after
15
you do
minutes.
it for like 15 minutes, it kind of has the effect of it.
Oh.
So don't like foam roll and then like wait an hour until you're gonna work out too, because then you aren't getting the benefit of it.
Would you suggest foam rolling pre-workout or post-workout? Or is it dependent? Because like I
guess
foam roll
yeah.
post-workout.
That's what I've always
Usually like right after I get done working out, and it feels nice, but I don't know if it's actually doing anything.
And if it feels good, it's not gonna hurt you. So go for it.
Awesome. You heard it here. If it feels good, it's not gonna hurt you.
Great. Where's the rest of that tequila?
I guess because context is important in this.
Welcome to Bitch versus Bear, where we take everything you say and twist it for our advantage.
Yes.
So glad I joined your podcast.
Okay, so Sid says, that you have what we would consider a pretty unique business model. You're located in one of Richmond's first queer-owned gyms, which is like totally dope. You do one-on-one visits. You have this super dope 3D motion capture technology, which I got to try after our hip workshop, and it's so cool.
I hear that it's really cool. I have been told by other people who visit Allison that it is really super dope.
It's so cool. It was really neat to get to try that. So the question here is, what drove you from traditional clinical practice?
Well, first off, the 3D motion capture thing too, since it's so dope. Like it's from like Kinotech, and they contacted me to see if I wanted to beta test it. And so, but it's a great way to just like be able to capture a whole lot of movement, and it takes measurements of like pretty much every joint that you're moving, and you can see like little ball and stick figures of yourself as you're like doing a squat, and be like, this is your hips dropping on this side, or your like knees caving in. So yeah, it's dope.
Okay, I'm gonna sidetrack us just for a second because I actually thought it was really cool when I heard that it was a little ball and stick figure, and the reason that I think it's super dope is because people, when they often see themselves on like video, they will critique and their appearance. So it's cool as the ball and stick figure, and people not paying attention necessarily to their appearance, and they can just focus on this like very generic thing. And I think that's so cool for the community that you serve because some people don't always feel super comfortable in their bodies, and but it's still a great way for them to be like, oh, well, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And not
It's
have
super
that.
easy to see how the joints are moving too.
Yeah, so cool.
And it's surprising. Like, I was surprised by some of the results. Like, oh, that's weird. Okay.
But I heard it's you're weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what drove me from traditional clinical practice?
Yeah. Yes.
Like I was just fed up with the traditional healthcare system.
We all.
I like for traditional PT, you like if you're going to PT, you're going 2 to 3 times a week for an hour. You might see your PT for like 15 minutes, and you're doing exercises like on your own or with an aide or with an assistant. And like so the PT is seeing like multiple people at a time and like has some exercises planned but can't like really tailor towards you specifically because like when I was working in a traditional clinic I was seeing like 16 clients in a day as opposed to now I see like 16 clients in a week. So I wanted to like create a space where like I could learn more about like what exactly my clients need. How do I individualize things? Like I'm available via text message if they have questions in between when they need to come or when they're coming in. So they're not just like wondering if they're doing things the right way or not at home. Like, and I'll be able to adjust things, exercises on the fly because like I'm one-on-one working with people now as opposed to being like, all right, you do this, you do this, you do this.
Yeah.
So I love being able to provide a better quality of care because it's better for who I'm working with and it's better for me. So, and there's another little story on like the LGBTQIA plus front. Is like when I worked in a traditional clinic, June came around. I asked if I could put a little pride flag up, and they're like, "Let me get back to you." Okay.
What?
So, they got back to me and they're like, "Okay, you can have it up, but you can only have it at your desk and not where like easily seen by like people who come in the clinic."
Cool. Yeah. So not easily
Nice,
seen.
nice.
So no representation at all.
So like, no.
So yes, but no. So like it's so nice to be at a place now where just like everyone can be themselves and not hide who they are. So,
Yeah. No.
So important.
I think that's great. I mean, as somebody in the community, one of my biggest pet peeves, especially, is like in the healthcare setting of just like I don't necessarily always feel safe, and I'm like, okay, where do I go? Who do I talk to? Obviously, like my health is similar to people, heterosexuals, but like my circumstances are different, and so like, I always, my go-to favorite thing to talk about is when I go into a healthcare setting and the first question is, are you pregnant or could you be pregnant? And I'm like, no.
yeah.
And they're like, oh, so
Doesn't work
you
that
sure?
way.
Yeah. Are you sure? So you use birth control? No. And like, they're like, so you're okay with getting pregnant? And I'm like, it's not gonna happen.
Not an
Yeah.
option.
This would be really hard.
It would be really hard.
Really.
And it's because like you're not
No matter how much you practice, it's just not gonna work.
yeah, like I could make a lot of money off of this. Like, please let immaculate conception be a thing. And that's always my go-to of like, did you read my chart? Did you realize that like I'm married to a woman? Like, no, you didn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
So why did I take my time to fill out this lengthy piece of paper for you?
So on the lengthy piece of papers that I have people fill out for me, which I hope are not that lengthy, and I try to make it so that it like actually means more, and I'm only getting what I actually need, as opposed to somewhere I'm like, I already answered this. Why am I doing this again? But I ask everyone, no matter who, it says, is there a chance you might be pregnant? Everybody just says yes or no.
Yes or no. Okay, great.
Okay, done. Next question. But also, like, with medical records, a lot of medical records, like, only have the options for male, female, or, like, she, him, whatever.
Or they have nothing about pronouns.
Yeah, or have nothing
maybe
about
they
pronouns.
do now, but like,
Yeah. So I made sure that when, like, initially, upon starting, since like inclusivity is a huge part of what I stand for, and a big part of my life, that I wanted to make sure that, like, not discriminating and like I'm including everything. So when people, as soon as they like fill out a form for me, like one of the things that I ask them is like, what are your pronouns? Like, what is your preferred name? Because it's important, and that shit matters.
Yeah, it really does, and it's a simple thing. That's the thing.
Super
it's like,
simple.
Yeah, like it doesn't need to be complicated, and it makes people feel so much better. And I think that's it's just awesome.
Kudos to Jane App. Thank you, EMR, for like having that. Because I wasn't seeing that in lots of and any other EMR that I had used before. EMR, electronic medical record. During my intern year, I even did like a training at the acute care hospital that I was working at about like discrimination in healthcare and like how, like, what happens if you make a mistake. So, and I interviewed people of all different identities, and the big thing that I heard was just like, don't make a big deal of it, but be like, sorry, and then correct yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think more people and more providers need to just like, one, have the understanding and knowledge, and two, to just be okay with if they do make a mistake. Because I think sometimes once they realize, there's that guardedness of like, oh, I don't want to make a mistake, and it's like, it's okay.
I'll even make mistakes.
I have called you by the wrong name on our podcast. Like, it's okay.
True story.
That's right, Shelby.
It's okay.
It happens. It's okay. Like healthcare is so fucked up for the queer community, the women. Like I saw a reel, I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but like I saw a reel that was like, oh, my husband went for a vasectomy and they gave him pain medication and a snack and made sure he was okay. Like, I went in for 2 IUDs. The first one, I got there and they were like, oh, we forgot to tell you to take some over-the-counter ibuprofen before you came in. Here's a couple of pills. Go ahead and pop them. The second one, I got no pain medication. Luckily, I remembered what the first one was. Yeah. So I took some before I went, and still almost passed out. Like, it's so traumatic, and we get no pain medication, no consideration, no snacks. Like,
what I'm hearing is Amber would just feel so much better if her providers handed her snacks.
Yeah, I would feel better if everyone handed me snacks.
Yeah. Well, and some research has shown too that like in the LGBTQIA plus community, like people will delay getting healthcare because of discrimination or even fears of discrimination. So I've had somebody tell me like, like I don't want to explain things in my doctor's office because like I don't know how much they'll listen to me.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
That shouldn't have to happen.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll have you back on again. We'll go down a different rabbit hole. This will be great.
We'll keep spiraling.
Yeah, we'll keep spiraling.
It's gonna be very long. Sorry.
No. It's great.
Yeah, we kind of assumed that having guests on would be longer episodes, so like it's fine.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're dope. We have covered that.
You're dope, we're dope.
Everybody's dope.
The queer community is dope.
Dope. Dope.
One last time, tell us about your services, where people can find you, and how they can reach out to you and maybe get started with you or figure out maybe even just a place to start. Maybe they've never had any kind of like physical therapy and they don't even know like the jumping off point.
Mm-hmm. Well, my main program thing that I offer is movement and performance physical therapy, where it's a thorough evaluation to get to the root cause of what's actually going on. I make a plan for you and your needs, and so that you can meet or often surpass your goals. The successful results that I get with my clients today, like far surpass what I saw in a traditional setting with often like cookie cutter kinds of exercises and not a lot of follow through. Mm-hmm. So another thing that I offer for people who want continued accountability is Consistency Club. So if you've been part of, if you graduated from physical therapy with me, but want like a continued check-in, that's something that I offer. You mentioned the 3D movement screens. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a specific injury, but you just want to see how you move, you can get an analysis of
I'm going to be setting up for that.
your movement, which is like a snapshot of just how you move from head to toe. And what's cool with that is that if you want to like come back every like month or every quarter and see your progress too, and be like, oh, I worked on this. Okay, now let's see how things have changed.
Ooh,
so
that's fun.
Yeah. And last is fitness recovery sessions. So it's just little 30-minute, mostly hands-on. If you're feeling stiff after a workout but don't really have a specific injury, and just focus on improving range of motion, blood flow, decreasing muscle tightness, which might consist of like some hands-on work, massage gun, cupping, trigger point release, things like that. So if you are in need or interested in any of that, all of that is also on my website, which is also where I have the easiest way to get a hold of me for inquiries. I have a little button on the top corner, it says ask about availability. Click on that, and then we'll ask a few questions and then set up a phone call to see if we're a good fit. So my formation website is www.formationphysicaltherapy.com. Located in or rent a space out of Body Art Gym. So I have a little clinic space in there, and then
it's not little.
It's really nice.
It's really nice.
Okay, I have my own separate office area that some people prefer just private, separate settings. So we might do the whole, like every single visit in there, but if you're comfortable with being out in the gym, and as things progress, like I'd like to spend more time out in the gym and incorporating more of that into rehab. On Instagram, you can find me at Formation Physical Therapy. Same with Facebook.
Nice.
Same
thing.
Facebook at Formation Physical Therapy. Who does Facebook?
I don't know.
I don't know. We have some listeners in that age range that might actually still use Facebook.
I mean,
it's there.
We were joking before, like we were talking about Snapchat. And I'm like, what? I'm the oldest one here, by the way.
Not by much.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, reach me. The ask about availability little button in the top corner on my website, or you can DM me on Instagram as the one that I check most often. So yeah.
Cool. We will post all of those things in our show notes, and maybe if somebody convinces me, I will take you through a step-by-step video on my phone of going to Allison's website and clicking the ask me for availability in case you were confused about where it might be. I think that would be hysterical.
That would be great. Because
Pull
we
it up
all
and you're like,
know.
right there.
Yeah, right there.
And then if you want to read more and scroll down, and then you're like, oh, it's also at the bottom.
It is also at the bottom.
I tried
I saw
to
it
make
in
it
both
easy.
places when I researched.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
of course, make sure to follow, like, rate, comment
Comments.
on us, on all the platforms, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can watch the video on YouTube at ShieldMaidenTC. Follow us on all the things at ShieldMaidenTC, or I think Facebook is different, SMTC RBA.
Because the other one was taken.
Don't know about who, but it was. And the TikToks.
And the TikToks. The Tiki Talkies. Cool. Awesome. Well, that was dope.